Alright, so we're back once again, and this time I want to go over, my last video was about how Wargaming mishandled the Puerto Rico incident completely, and just kind of like a overview of what actually happened. Now I want to delve into like a bit more of the community reaction, how that was handled, how people took it, especially Wargaming, and actually a little bit into how people reacted to, which is kind of interesting. So the first thing I actually want to bring up here is, I think 4 days ago or so, from when this video goes up, Wargaming does like their usual streams on Twitch about, about the patch. Every time the new patch is released, they do a stream. I think that stream was with Mr. Conway and one of the producers, I think, I'm not 100% sure. So I grabbed these little bits of chat that I thought were a bit interesting, and you can just see the general visceral reaction from the way I like to think of it is that Twitch chat is probably the most vocal people out of the entire community. It's because generally the majority of people don't actually comment. They don't actually, they don't leave Reddit comments. They don't go in Twitch chat and actually speak. They kind of lurk. So I was thinking, alright, if I want the edgiest kind of reaction to this event, I'm going to go to Twitch chat and kind of grab the screen, or grab the chat. And as you can basically see from these screen grabs, is that everything, every question, everything was about this Puerto Rico incident. I should kind of expect, because it is, despite what Wargaming says, it is the main reward for this event. So that being said, there are some interesting questions, but a lot of them, it kind of comes down to two main things, and there's something I want to kind of give a PSA on, is that must have been horrible for the people actually doing the live stream, because I don't think the people doing the live stream actually have, well, maybe the producer actually does, but I don't think Mr. Conway actually has, all that much input on the pricing of these events or anything like that. So to shove those people in front of a camera with 400 people basically screaming at them going, what the hell are you doing? That must feel so horrific. So horrifically bad. But they must have been prepared going into that, so I don't feel as bad per se that it actually happened, because you kind of have to expect that based on just how the Reddit reacted and how generally streamers reacted and the community contributors reacted. So again, I would advise people to be angry, just don't be too angry, is how I would put it. That being said, that's Twitch chat reaction, which is kind of a world of its own. The one thing that kind of solidified it for me is the CC reaction, and I'm going to bring up a couple more images here of probably 3 of the biggest community contributors for the game. One of them, probably Jingle, is probably the biggest contributor for Wargaming entirely. Absolutely ripping them apart for this. I know that iChase actually, I don't want to bring up, I don't think this is actually relevant all that much, but I know a guy who works for German, or I don't know him personally, but I've heard of a guy from, I think it was on Reddit, a guy from German protection standards or something like that, actually kind of filing a case. I don't want to comment on the legitimacy of that, because I don't think it's actually going to go anywhere, because we see instances of games doing this kind of stuff so many times. Cough cough EA. But that being said, iChase released some really good videos, basically equating the Puerto Rico to $300, which is absolutely insane for me. You can actually probably fly to Puerto Rico from somewhere, probably in the US, for cheaper than that. And obviously Jingles released his video about it. One thing I actually did take away from Jingle's video is that he said that the way he thinks about it and the way he took it from other events is that go into the Puerto Rico event and just play the game as you usually would, and take the free stuff, take the advantages, and don't spend any money on it. That way you can still be angry about it, but you won't be as you don't feel as robbed to an extent. I know obviously if you bought into it, if you bought boosters, you have a lot more of a legitimate case to feel actually aggrieved. But I try and approach it from that angle, and it doesn't feel necessarily as bad. I know that doesn't really help when you think about when you're looking forward to this event. It's Christmas, and it comes once a year. Wargaming usually does something big for Christmas, and this has kind of ruined it. But try and keep that in mind when you're actually playing the game. If you actually decide to play it over the Christmas break, which I know a lot of people deciding not to. But I know a lot of people will too, because they actually genuinely enjoy the game. Yeah, and then there's a couple of Reddit threads that actually, one of which I'll bring up here. One of which is actually, some of them are just telling you not to do the grind, which I would agree with, don't do the grind. But the one that I thought was really interesting was the one about how Wargaming is actually switching over to window. And over to Windows basically where something actually, your idea of normal switches so much that outlandish behavior beforehand actually seems normal now. So if we apply that to Wargaming per se, is the fact that, I know maybe I don't remember this far back. I don't even think I was playing this far back. But when they announced from the free XP ships for like 750,000 XP, I think it was the Missouri, people were kind of like, whoa, that's so much free XP. That's absolutely insane. But the fact of the matter is now, if they did that now, it wouldn't actually be all that much of a, you'd be like, oh, that's pretty reasonable, and that's this kind of switching of standards. And one of these threads actually thinks that this actually Puerto Rico event is going to switch the window further from what is considered normal now, and these events are going to become more and more common just because of the fact that they're happening more often, which I think is, it's interesting. I don't know if it's actually true, but it's definitely something I would consider going forward. And what I would do is like think about the events going forward. Are they actually switching? Are they getting a little bit more kind of grindy? Are they getting a little more kind of pay to win? Is that the direction we're going in? It seems to be from the past. It does seem to be that way. So keep that in mind going forward and make a conscious decision whether or not you actually want to play into that. Generally that's for people who are actually going to buy boosters and buy progress and kind of wheels and stuff. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Now, to top it all off, Wargaming did release an apology. Now, and it did not go down well. As you can tell, it had 0 upvotes. And I can't really actually... I'm going to bring it up on the screen, obviously. And it outlines basically what you need to do to complete it on either no premium boosters, 1 premium booster, 2 premium boosters, 3 premium boosters, and basically they said that they miscommunicated how difficult it was going to be to actually complete the directives and get the Puerto Rico, which is kind of ironic considering they went back and actually changed their wording on different news articles beforehand. So I find that very interesting, shall we say. Interesting in the worst possible way. But that being said, these demands are pretty much unreasonable again. I know 1 or 2 streamers that are actually trying to, because obviously community contributors get 24,000 Dubons to actually buy all 3 boosters and then grind for it. So I know 1 or 2 that are actually going to try and do the grind just to see if it's actually feasible to get it and see if they are in the 1% that could actually grind it. But again, for anyone who doesn't want to spend money, this apology doesn't really do all that much. One more thing I want to touch on is they said they would postpone it because I know the event started a day later. I don't know if it was just on EU or on EU and NA, but I think it was just EU. So I think they might postpone it, but I think it might just be for a day or so. But don't quote me on that, obviously. But with that in mind, it's not really an apology of sorts. It's more just like a something trying to stop the reaction from happening almost. And in doing so, they just increased it. So yeah. I think they're just trying to cover their asses here, to be honest. That's my gut reaction from this. Again, it's an apology, but it's basically a non-apology at the same time. So yeah, my overall thoughts about this is that it's kind of scummy. It's kind of dirty. We've seen other companies do this in the past. It's going to shift World of Warships as a whole to a more kind of pay to win. My main advice would be, if you enjoy the game, just play it. Don't spend money. They'll get the picture eventually, if enough people do it. I know internet reaction and stuff like this, it tends to die down after a while, and people just accept it. And I really don't want that to happen, but I can see it happening. But yeah, my advice would be just to play the game as you usually would. Don't obsess over this. Don't try and grind any of the directives, because I know I won't be. And just pick up the rewards as you go. And that's the best approach I can possibly give. And that's what I'll be doing over Christmas. So, until then, I'll see you next time.